Steelers, they agreed to a new deal with their longtime head coach Mike Tomlin this morning. Adds 3 more years and ties Tomlin to Pittsburgh through 2024 as he gets ready for his 15th season at the helm there. So, Brandon, what do you expect from Tomlin and the Steelers this season?
You know what? I don't expect them to start as hot as they did. What did they run off? 10 wins in a row, 11 wins in a row? I don't expect that.
Yep.
I do expect them to be a really good team because they have a defense that is phenomenal. That front seven can get the job done week in and week out. However, when you look on the offensive side, you have a big problem. You have an identity issue. You have an identity crisis, and that's Big Ben. Big Ben is a guy that wants to do things his way, and that hurt them in the past. Like, Big Ben is an aging quarterback. He's super smart, obviously, has tons of experience, but Big Ben still wants to throw the ball down the field. He still wants to throw it 40-something times. That's not the Pittsburgh Steelers way. That's not going to get you your next Super Bowl. You need to adjust, Big Ben. You need to be able to hand the ball off, and you need to be smart in the passing game. You got to get the big guys involved. You got your Claypool out there. You know, you got a tight end. Make sure you get those guys involved and be smart when you throw the ball down the field. Big Ben is a guy that likes to keep things tight on the offensive side. So what did they do? They fired their offensive coordinator. They said he was the problem. Then they promote Matt Canada, who's their quarterback's coach. Like, Matt Canada has been a quarterback's coach for pretty much all of his career, and mainly in college. So I'm not sure what Matt Canada brings to the table. It seems to me like this is another Big Ben play where it's, you know what, I can still control this offense. So I think that Steelers will be good, but I don't think they'll be a contender because that offense has an identity crisis, Nick.
Brandon, I got a question for you quickly, and then I'll take it back. What's the biggest reason the Bucs won the Super Bowl and went on the run that they went on in the postseason? How would you, if you in 20 seconds or less, how would you describe how and why the Bucs won the Super Bowl?
One man, Todd Bowles. He beat Drew Brees, he beat Aaron Rodgers, and he beat Patrick Mahomes. That defense.
With that defense, with a savvy veteran quarterback that, aside from the Green Bay game, obviously, didn't make the huge mistake and could still make a few key throws a game. That has to be the Steelers' blueprint. Now, I don't know if Big Ben will sign up for that, but if he will, that's how the Steelers can actually be a threatening team. Forget Wilds just in the AFC overall, but in their division. They got to deal with a division that has Baltimore that won it 2 years ago and then came damn near close to winning it this year after it looked like the Steelers had it locked up. And Cleveland, which was ascending at the end of the year and won a playoff game, and I think has a very good young team. And I think the Steelers have a lot of the components of a good team. They have a great coach who they smartly just extended and a great defense, even though they just lost Bud Dupree. The question is, for lack of a better term, Wilds, is Big Ben okay playing small ball football? Are they okay trying to play the version of football they played the year Big Ben was out with an injury, just with better quarterback play than they were getting from Mason and the Duck Hunter? Like, can they do that and then try to be, have the mind meld of the veteran quarterback and Big Ben at the end of the season, help them in the postseason? Because if they think their path is being a high-flying offense, they are greatly mistaken. And so that's, to me, what's so interesting about this. They decided to run it back another year with Roethlisberger, so they think they can contend, but the way they could contend is through the other side of the ball and limiting the turnovers from their offense, which has been a huge problem each of the last 5 years Big Ben's been their starter.
Okay, so Brandon, do you think there is some philosophical disagreement between Big Ben and the coaching staff? Because Mike Tomlin has been there for over 10 years. He's never had a losing season. So the idea that there's some rift that Ben is out freestyling and this is not the plan that Mike Tomlin and Ben has agreed upon seems silly. It seems like you're saying, Nick is saying it's like the opposite of Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, that Russ wants to cook, Pete Carroll won't let him. So now Big Ben wants to throw the ball, and Mike Tomlin's like, all right, go ahead, I guess.
Yeah, Big Ben runs the show. You got to think about how this thing is set up.
Right.
Sometimes when you have players like like that who's been there for a very long time, they have a lot of power. But the Steeler way is this. How do the Steelers win Super Bowls? What made them great?
9 days until Trevor Lawrence is officially a Jacksonville Jaguar. Pro Football Focus is setting the bar high, says he's, quote, the best quarterback prospect we have ever scouted. Well, we got a former #1 overall pick, Michael Vick, joining us now. Mike, good morning. You know what this process is like. You've been through it. What sort of pressure you think Trevor's facing to be that franchise-altering quarterback coming out of the draft?
That's a lot of pressure for any guy who's going to be drafted in the first round at the quarterback position. And, you know, this just kind of hit me a second ago. When I was going through the draft process and, you know, as I vividly think about, you know, the times that I went through, it was more so thinking about, man, I wish I could be drafted in the 4th round instead of the 1st. Because as we went through that process and I started to see the mountain that I had to climb, you know, I started to doubt myself. I started to look at it as if I just went through a stellar college career and put everything, you know, out on the table. I laid everything on the line. Now I have to really take another franchise who hasn't been winning and turn it into a winning tradition somehow, some way. And then I started to look at it, you know, like, how do I get through this? You know, I got to look at it in 3-year increments because I had no mentor. I had nobody who could tell me how the process was going to go. Now these guys have life coaches, they got position coaches, and it's an easier transition. So I just looked at it in 3-year increments. You know, year 1, show some promise. Year 2, playoffs without a doubt. Year 3, try to continue to take it there. And, you know, years 4, 5, and 6, you continue to ascend and try to take it further. So, you know, I just looked at the immense amount of pressure that I had to deal with before I even stepped on the field. And I took it with a grain of salt. And I realized that, you know, without success in the first 3 years, there won't be another increment. And, you know, I focused on that. But the pressure of taking a franchise that hasn't won a lot of games and putting them in a position where they win games and, you know, they're highly recognized, is on your shoulders. Guys like Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco, you know, Ben Roethlisberger, they didn't make it any easier as they made the playoffs in their rookie years respectively. So that's the pressure that all these guys are facing, not just Trevor Lawrence, but going through the college ranks and, you know, playing on that level of competition should help them weather the storm in their first 3 years, hopefully.
And Mike, that's the problem. You know, you got a guy like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, even yourself, you go through your story, but we see guys like y'all, and we say, you know what? This is the guy that's going to change the face of our franchise. And we put all the pressure on them. But the reality is it starts with ownership. It always starts at the top. Guys that comes in and have a successful career, they have strong leadership at the top. They have stability at management. They have defense, or at least a capable defense. They have guys around them. It takes more than one guy to get the job done. This is a sport in the offseason where you have 90 guys in the locker room. You know, you're talking about a support staff of 100 people pouring into the team every single day, from athletic trainers to physical therapists to doctors to the grounds crew. Everybody playing their role so the team can be successful. But we want to put it on one man's shoulder, and that's not the reality. But if we're going to look at the quarterback position and say, what's the most important thing that they need? You got to start with the offensive coordinator. So when you think about the guy they brought in, Darrell Bevell, you got to see if he's capable first. Like, this guy can come in, and if he's not in the right situation, he'll never be successful. Darrell Bevell, tell me.